Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Richest Men in Town podcast. I'm Mike Freeman, and along with my good friend and co-host Tyler Gould, we're excited to welcome you to our little podcast project. Tyler and I are just a couple of middle-aged husbands and dads driven to live our best lives. We want to be better every day, so here we'll be sitting down with great people. Not famous people, but great people that we admire, to learn their secret to living the rich life. Probably not the rich life you're thinking of. Our guests come in humbled and surprised at the invitation and hopefully leave feeling proud and grateful, realizing just how good they really have it. So pull up a chair, stay a while, and raise a glass with us as we toast our guests to the richest men in town.
Mike Freeman, another episode of the Richest Men in Town is in the books, and we got to spend some time with our friend, Peter Carlseen tonight.
Bringing him back.
Now, episode 47, all the way back, a year and a half.
There's no statute of limitations on our warning when we tell the guests we're going to do this again.
You get comfortable sleeping at night, and we are going to call you. You know what I mean? So
like a repo guy. We just show up.
It was good to
get
catch
over
up
here
with Peter.
You can't outrun us.
No way, man. It was fun, man. What stood out to you tonight with our time with Peter?
Oh, man, Peter is learning right now.
Yeah.
Right? He is learning right now. And the cool thing is he lets us in.
Yeah.
He lets us in, and I can just tell you, I mean, family's powerful.
Yeah.
Right? Family is that university. You and I are both learning right now in the season that we're in with kids, and we kind of get into that. We get into that every week.
Right.
But, you know, our listeners are probably sick of hearing us about our kids. So we get Peter in, and Peter lets us in on what his kids are teaching them. And I just love this life. I love people like Peter. I love people that, when that 2x4 smacks them upside the head, they pay attention.
Yeah. And I love the fact that, that Peter's learning, and those lessons that are being taught are from his kids, and he's consuming those lessons, and he's applying those lessons, and he's being self-reflective, and it was powerful tonight. It really made me sort of take pause in our conversation and want to look inward and take some inventory on where I'm at on some things.
Looking inward and that self-reflection that you just mentioned that Peter exemplifies tonight.
Yeah.
That's a freaking superpower.
Amen.
Like, I believe that you want to become the person that you need to become. You're not getting there without every once in a while tapping the brakes and saying, do I love my kids unconditionally?
Yeah.
Unconditionally? Right?
Yeah.
And let the first answer that pops into your head kind of float by and dig deep.
Yeah.
And what evidence do I have that I am the kind of father I want to be?
Absolutely.
Like there's some things in there. And we talk status quo. We talk Invisalign, doing hard things. We get a little silly and goofy, but like it gets real, and it gets real pretty quick. And Peter's powerful tonight.
Powerful. I hope, that I learned a lot tonight. I took a lot of notes, and one of those things, Mike, that you and I have some work to do on our family mission statement for sure. Like that is, come on, man. It's been a long time coming. We got to work on that. But
we do. Let's commit to that. Like we throw some things out there from time to time, and I'm supposed to be doing 100 push-ups. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing right now, but like that mission statement stuff, I get the goosebumps in this episode. I get a little emotional when that thing comes back up. Right? Yeah. It's like that beach ball that pops back up, and we push it down, it pops, another guest brings it up. There's a special experience waiting for families that can sit down and eyeball to eyeball say, what are we about?
Yeah, I totally
What
agree.
are we about? And maybe even start with, what are we not about?
Yeah. The question he asked of what's the identity of your family? And I love it. I hope people listen tonight to Peter with their hearts open, their ears open, and ready to learn some things about themselves, about their families, and about what real love is all about. Yeah. I'm grateful for that.
I love when he says, right, this is not a you problem. This is a me problem.
Yeah. Right. And that goes back to that inward looking.
Yeah. What kind of world if everyone's walking around saying, oh, this is a me problem? Because right now everything is somebody else's problem.
Right.
You know?
Yep, absolutely. Well, hey, I appreciate you, Mike. I'm grateful for the time that we got to spend tonight with Peter and for Peter and his family and what they're teaching you and I tonight, but what they're teaching everybody that gets a chance to hang out with them. It's just powerful.
I appreciate you turning the thermostat up a little bit so that we can keep the lights on and do this podcast, man.
Yeah, I was sweating it out a little bit just for the good of RMIT. That's
It worked out. This episode's a blessing to anyone and everyone that'll tune in. Man.
Amen. Enjoy your time with Peter Carlseen on The Richest Men in Town.
Tyler, for the longest time, ever since you've probably known me, I have been a fan of both late night and early morning.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on the record, right? I'm a night owl, and I love me some early morning, and sleep is the sacrifice. And 7 days of Saturday is all that I need. God, no use for Sunday because I don't rest in peace, right? Like I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna sleep. I know sleep is like one of the top 5 things you could do for yourself. I just have taken pride in the fact that I'm going to be up late with my kids. I'm going to be up early when no one's up and tackle the day. Well, they're gone.
Yeah.
So like, seriously, I snuck home early the other day, maybe 4:55.
Okay.
Judge Judy was on. I looked at Kelly. I'm like, are we watching Judge Judy now? It's like, no, I'm just getting my early, I'm just getting the evening news on. I'm like, oh, shoot me now. Like,
it's all
and
over.
now, seriously, 10 o'clock, we kind of look at each other like, well, might as well, turn the lights out and hit the hay. Like, what? What is going on here?
I don't know, man. It's like
I've been to the mountaintop, Tyler. I've been to the mountaintop. Whatever you think you have in your mind about empty nester,
yeah.
The only thing that is true is tricks for dinner. That's it.
But dude,
that's it.
I mean, is there an exploration?
I pictured a lot of like.
So, is there a search for the no children Mike and Kelly identity? Or is it just business as usual?
Oh, no, we are in the process. We're in the process of breaking some things down. And I wouldn't say reinventing, right? Because Mike and Kelly's on solid ground, at least says Mike, right?
Yeah, of course.
According to Mike, we are solid. We are good.
Yes.
But I think that there is a little bit of this, how much of your identity is wrapped up in your kids thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for the longest time, I was reminiscing the other day, 5:30 hit, and it was like, what do I got going on? And I just was reminiscing about a time when you remember flag football practices, man, and you're bouncing, and you're running, and you're just covering bases. You got
just good times.
Ray's got to go here, Abe's got to go here, but anyways.
Yeah.
And hey, the long story, to make a long story short, Tyler Gould, Richest Man in Town is now looking for an intern because we've lost our show art.
Well, you know what?
I'm about to drop an episode and actually going to have a picture of somebody.
I have someone who could be trained up here at the house. Gwendolyn, we could pass that torch. We just have to have we have to have the old interns do a little bit of training.
And hand over the device.
We've got the stuff.
Oh, okay.
I think we could make it work.
Well, I was telling people, hey, people are excited about season 4, and I said, well, just get ready for stick figures on the show art.
Yeah, it's like, here's what we do. We wash away your facial features and actually everything about you. It's just a line.
And I just interpret. The picture you show me that is, encapsulating your rich life, I strip it down to a couple sticks and we call it good.
Life is so simple, We
Well, hey,
overcomplicate
this
it.
Gwen thing, we might want to figure this out because I'm about to throw it down and do contract negotiations with my intern and be like, hey, what's it going to cost? So
Yeah. Well, I think we have a two-part discussion. What's it going to cost for you to continue, and what's it going to cost for you to train the new intern?
yeah,
Pick, right?
yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Life is good. Life is good in the Freeman
That's what
home.
I'm talking about.
Hot.
Good.
Hot.
Oh, hot. I don't know what it's like in Reading, but here today it was 97, and it's freaking hot.
I'll see your 97 and raise you like 15.
Oh, that's just wrong. There's nothing right about that. There's nothing right about it, man.
No, it's pretty unbearable. Yeah.
I literally have had this thought before, Mike, like on several occasions. Like, I feel like people. Years ago, I went to Toronto. I happened to be there in December or January. I think it was January, and it was -18. And I remember thinking, like, they surely settled this place in the spring, right? And I'm thinking the same thing, like Arizona. Like, they rolled in November, and they were like, this place is it, right? And then it rolled around to June, and they were like, what the freak is going on?
Yeah. Well, hey, it is the most wonderful time of the year. We are post Labor Day. I don't know if you're a fantasy football guy, if you've got your drafts in, but
it's all set.
Everybody has hope right now.
The Raiders are undefeated right now, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for maybe the Seahawks. The Seahawks.
There's very little hope.
The Seahawks are we're already doomed, I think.
Well, there's always at the beginning. Everyone has a little hope, but there are one or two hopeless teams always.
We might be there.
League. I think you and the Browns might be
freaking Browns. We have how we have sunk down.
That's rough, man. That's rough.
Yeah.
Well, I'm it's a great time of year. This is one of my favorite times of year. You got college football rolling. You got baseball coming into playoffs, right? You've got and my dog
says the Dodger fan.
by the way.
Says the Dodger fan.
Absolutely. And then you've got, the NFL kicking off. There's a lot of good stuff happening.
Okay, but is the Dodger fan bored right now? Like, what are you're just loving it?
I'm absolutely loving it. Yeah.
This is not getting old. Like, this is not like, we just beat up on the Giants again.
No, in fact, beating up on the Giants and the Padres never gets old. It just doesn't get old. No, it's good, because we got a lot of people coming back off the IL, so that's all fun stuff to kind of see how that's going to shake out. Like they say, right? It's regular season's great, but what happens in the playoffs, right?
You got to. That's right. You got to take care of business.
Yeah.
And you're better now, right?
Yeah.
The guy that beat you is with you now.
Yeah.
My brother, Freeman.
Your brother Freeman is one of the best hitters in the National League so far this year. So, it's been great, man. It's fun. It's exciting stuff. So, what say you with Peter Carlseen? What are you looking forward to today, Mike?
Here's what I'm looking forward to, right? I think I'm looking forward to some courageous conversations.
Yeah.
I think that I'm looking forward to making some new I'm looking forward to some empathy.
Yeah.
I think Peter's going to take us to some places and maybe even touch on some topics that it's crazy to say, right? We're episode 115 or something, but I think Peter's going to take us to some places that we haven't been to.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think when I'm with Peter shares some things that gets me firing off some synapses in ways that I haven't really done before. New connections, right? New thoughts. He's been busy. I think he's had, he's taken that Dave Speck, I give you permission to write a book thing serious. I think he's jumping into some projects, and I'm hoping to catch some inspiration and maybe leave with some sales filled up and ready to roll. What about you?
Yeah, I love any chance I get to kind of spend some time with Peter and pick his brain. He's super smart, and he's always got great insights on a variety of different topics, right? And so Peter's he's a fan of a lot of the same things that we're a fan of, with as far as some of the books and authors that we like to read, and I love to hear his insight on those things. So plus I think Peter's he knows the scriptures back and forward, and I appreciate that about him as well. So I'm looking forward to tonight. And wherever we end up, I think it's going to be as usual. It's going to be a fun journey with Peter.
What's up, guys?
Welcome back to the richest men in town, brother. How are things? Peter, we had so much fun with you back episode 47. Chew on that, right? Man. Chew on that. That was episode 47. Actually, let me see if I can do some homework here. March 29th, 2021 is when we last crossed paths.
Jeez.
Right? So every once in a while, we reach back out to people and say, hey, let's have an update, right? So as the call comes out, or as Tyler bumps into you or bothers you and harasses you to get you back on the program, what are your thoughts coming back to the richest men in town a year and like a half later?
Well, it's good. It's good to be back on, and
this is where you tell us that the recording of episode 47 changed your life and launched you into stardom. Right?
At least made you go into hiding.
Your life has never been the same.
It prepared me for it. I'll give you that. It prepared me for the future stardom that will most likely be catapulted by episode 115.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it's all part of your plan to dominate the world, right?
Right.
Primer.
That's right.
Oh man, I love it. Well, I'm excited to have you here. As Mike and I were talking about it before you jumped on with us. It's I always like talking to you, and I'm looking forward to just kind of catching up and seeing where we end up tonight. A good conversation is a good thing, and see what Mike and I can learn from you.
Well, since we've been together, I can tell you that I now wear shorts with drawstrings.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, and Tyler's turned me on to classic tees. Classic tees? Man.
True classic.
Although I'm not representing tonight, this episode's still brought to you by Classic Tees. I'm still addicted to bubblegum. I've actually reloaded the machine here, so you might much to my dentist's chagrin. And I'm an empty nester.
Yeah, let's get into that for a second, Peter. Mike is an empty nester. Now let me tell you something about Mike, and he is a go to bed late, get up early guy. So he's the rare breed.
We're talking
will stay up late with you.
We're talking checking the mail at midnight and waking up at 5.
But
I'm that kind of weird guy walking around barefoot in the neighborhood to the mailbox at midnight.
Yeah. He is that guy. But see, here's the thing. Like 6 months ago, a year ago, Mike has a teenage son at home, and staying up late is hanging out, right?
Hanging out.
Now, staying up late is Mike on the couch watching reruns of like Family Feud or something.
Well, hold on. Whoa. We are at this dramatic finale of The Bachelorette, brother.
Oh, even worse.
I can feel my brain dying just listening to that. The atrophy is wearing. I can't take much more.
So my question to Mike was this, Peter. Is it you just roll into this new role of Judge Judy at 5, Applebee's at 6, bedtime at 8, or is this a rediscovery of the new Mike and Kelly? Where do you stand on this, Peter? Projecting ahead, you and Lisa as empty nesters.
Oh gosh, can't wait. I mean, it seems I hope that The Bachelorette is not in my future. Binge watching The Bachelorette. No judgment. It's not for me. It's not my thing. It's not my scene. But we got 6 years until at best until that happens. So I don't know if I want to project too far, but I got to say, Mike, it sounds like you need some hobbies. So you may need some better hobbies than.
Yeah, no, we actually have a list of some things as we were dumping kids in Utah and driving across Nevada. Nevada is very inspiring, that landscape, right?
Elko, it just screams like.
Give me some Elko. Give me some Elko. We are just lighting up Barstow, Elko.
It's not our demographic, man.
But we do have a list. We have a list of some things that we're going to be exploring together. The challenge is one of my hobbies is a podcast that, takes up 4 or 5 hours of my life every week and doesn't involve her. So hobbies are a sensitive subject for me to bring up around here right now because, the obvious is then stated and then it gets awkward and I just go listen to episode 114.
And there's no children to run interference, so
yeah, right. Oh, look over there.
That's right.
Hey,
right,
6 years, Peter. It will be upon you quick, right?
Knock on wood.
Everybody says it goes quick. It does. So maybe I'll have it down by then. But I will say that if Mike Freeman can get 6 or 7 hours of sleep, I think I'll be a better person.
Yeah.
4 or 5. Not so much. Not sustainable. Abe Lincoln, I think it worked, but that guy also had some, he had some issues.
He had some other issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious though. You can't be a go to bed late guy, and your wife's a go to bed early gal, and there's no kids. Like there's no one. You know what I mean? Like.
Oh no,
sitting solo, right?
The only thing that we are hanging on to, like. I don't know about you guys, but I thought we'd always have a queen bed, right? I thought there's just some things that I thought my marriage would maintain. All of those things have gone. The only ground we're still holding on to is we go to bed same time. Period.
Regardless whether late, whatever.
Period. She says, time to wrap it up. Time to wrap it up.
You've got a son who's gone to college and come back. He's graduated, right? Culinary school?
He's got a culinary degree. From Southwest Technical Institute down in Cedar City. So he's
awesome.
Now chefing it up somewhere at an undisclosed location here in Chile.
Okay, so hold on. This is a success story. You send a kid out into the world and he got a marketable skill and came back and is actually working in what he went to school for?
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Give it time. So no, it's good. It's good. Yeah, so he's back. And in fact, I just signed a lease agreement with him earlier today. So we went over the terms of a, 15-page lease agreement. So he has some practice in that now. Basically, the gist of it was his landlord could kick him out at any given time or raise the rent at any given time. So, he better be a good tenant.
Yeah. I love it. Now,
can I back up and ask a question and maybe this gets cut? I don't know. Have you eaten at the establishment where he cooks?
Not since he worked there.
Is that a conscious decision?
No, I don't think I have.
Has Tyler unknowingly eaten at the establishment where he works?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I don't. I'm trying to remember where, and I think if my memory serves, where he is. I don't think I have eaten there.
Okay. It starts with a P.
Yes. Okay. I have not eaten there.
Okay.
Let's see.
Popeyes?
Yes. I mean, and I'm craving that chicken sandwich, by the way.
Oh, no. Nope.
Oh, my goodness gracious. All right. So, in all seriousness, Peter, did you actually have your son sign a lease agreement?
Yes.
Oh, I love it.
Well, no, let me take that back. He insisted on the lease agreement.
So, can you give me some thoughts? Why?
Hold on. So, for folks that maybe are unfamiliar with Peter and episode 47, this is what you do.
That's what I do. Yeah, I'm a real estate broker. So I do lease agreements all day long. I own and broker a property management company. So it's all about leases. He insisted on it. He insisted on signing a lease agreement. It's probably so that I can't legally kick him out just for any reason. I can't say, get out of my house. He's daughter's rights or something. I don't know.
He took away the old parental. So just for clarification, he's living in your home.
Yes.
And he insisted on signing a lease agreement.
Yes. The lease agreement specifies his area of domain.
I'm impressed by this.
I like that. So we'll have to drop in the show notes how parents might be able to maybe use your services to get said lease agreements for other.
It's a whole new untapped market.
Yep. Just make sure you check with your CPA before you go and do anything. I don't want you incurring any more liability than you might want, but yeah.
Wow. I love it. I love it. So are there any terms in there that stand out to you? Or is this a pretty standard boilerplate lease agreement?
It's pretty standard boilerplate. There's no weird, you got to get your chores done. There's no allowance thing. There's no, it's just.
Okay.
So how do you feel he represented himself in this process?
I did very well.
Yeah. Was there some pushback? Was there some things that he tried to maybe have some leverage on?
Nope, not at all. He kept on me about getting it signed. He's like, hey, Dad, we need to get this lease agreement done. So I finally got it done. And I printed it out and I brought it home. And he's like, Dad, we need to go over this lease agreement.
Wow.
Did that for, a week or two. And so finally we went over the lease agreement. And he's like, Dad, we got to sign the lease agreement. He's on it.
So is the lease for a specified period of time?
It's month to month.
Oh, all right.
I'm going month to month with this guy.
I like it.
Well, hey, we'll leave it at that.
I kind of like this, Peter, because what I am learning, and Tyler, you're probably learning this too with some adult children, is the game has changed, and I'm now at the mercy of the information they provide me about their life.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's kind of nice to have them on a lease agreement in your house, because at least you then can gain some information. Because right now, I'm having to be like, well, if you want to connect with your son, maybe you need a Snapchat, or maybe you need to to get on Be Real. I don't know if you guys have heard about this Be Real thing, right? But
there's another one now.
Oh, there's another one. There's another one. So I'm like, I'm almost gonna jump in there, and pretty soon, Tyler, you'll see me doing TikTok dances or something just to be able to connect with my kid.
I would follow that 100%. But what's interesting is, so my kids, when they were of the age that we allowed them to get social media of whatever kind, the rule was that we have to be their friends, right? In these social media platforms. So that is the way that I see, especially my daughters in Utah, but also my daughter here. My phone dings and I have a notification that there's been a post by one of said daughters.
Okay, let me throw this out to you guys. When they were younger, location tracking was a given, right? Your location on your phone was like, that's why you have a phone. I'm going to know where you are. When they turn 18, is it still appropriate for you to know their location?
Are you paying that bill? Let me ask you that.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo.
But here's the thing, like when I can tell,
because have you ever got caught up? Have you ever got caught up in like, what if my parents were doing that to me?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it would have been a nightmare. My life would have been a complete nightmare.
Let's not go there.
I know, but let me say this: I have never once tracked my kids' phones. Now, maybe Ricky has, but here's the interesting thing: I've never.
There's no maybe there. There's no maybe there. I have not either. I could not tell you how to do it. There's no maybe. Ricky's on
tracked. Okay. But here's the interesting thing is my daughters who live out of state have texted me and said, "Why didn't you answer your phone? I saw that you're at this place. Call me." They've tracked me. So I'm like, all right, whatever.
But we're hanging out on a 3-day weekend, Labor Day weekend, and Sunday night, Kelly's like, Abe's on the Salt Flats in Wendover, and it's like midnight, right?
Dude, it's not worth tracking at this point, man. You got to shut that bad boy down.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, this is not right. Like, I feel like, yes, I'm paying for that bill, but I feel like we're now using this intel, and he does not need us to know that he's camping out on the Salt Flats over Labor Day weekend. You know what I mean?
And here's the thing, like, you knowing he's on the Salt Flats or wherever he might be that you track him to is only going to cause you consternation.
Well, here's the
then with nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, here's the consternation that I'm also getting. So I'm at the mercy of the information that I have on these kids' lives. If I am aware, but they haven't told me, and I'm interacting with them, waiting for them to let me in on their lives, and they don't, and I have information, it's now in this awkward, like, well, do I reveal the information that I have so that I can talk to the kid about the thing that I know about? Or do I wait for them to, like, on their terms, let me know? You know what
There's a little cloak and dagger going on here, man. I don't know.
Cloak and dagger. Overnight, Peter, the rules have changed.
Well, Peter's already been through it. Sam was in Cedar.
Yeah.
So how'd you deal with it?
You know, I don't know. You just deal with it. I've never done the phone tracking thing. I'm not smart enough to know how to do that. That's beyond my technological capabilities. I'm more of a technidiot than a genius there. So no, I dealt with it by just not doing anything.
Yeah, there we go.
You know, trust and faith.
I like that. Train up a child, right? Train up a child in a way. See what happens.
Let me ask you this: is that trust and faith, or is that ignorance is bliss? Like, which category does that fall into? Because I would honestly,
I think we're splitting hairs here now. I think that, you know, it's all semantics. You know, come on.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I think to me it's stretching and growing, right?
Yeah,
it's stretching and growing. Are they going to be knuckleheads sometimes and maybe make some mistakes? Sure.
Hope so.
Yeah, hope so. I hope. Yeah. I hope they're going to learn some things the hard way, right? Because in the end, that's what it's about. But it would be kind of cool to be like, hey, Dad, I went camping with some chicks on the Salt Flats.
And you're like, yeah, I know.
Just tell them. Just say, hey, how are the Salt Flats?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that got to be miserable because I didn't drop you off with a tent or a sleeping bag. So how much fun was that?
But you sent him with a minivan, dude.
Oh,
it's like the best of both worlds.
Yeah, there was that mistake.
Abe's a good boy though.
That's good. It's all good. It's all good. We're having fun.
So talk to me, Peter. What's going on in your life? What's new? What's moving in you these days?
What's new? Well, if I'm talking funny, it's because I've got these Invisalign things on my teeth.
Ooh, okay.
I finally decided that I was sick of my bottom teeth looking like the Rocky Mountains. So I employed one of the most ancient Chinese or whatever, some torture device that they put on your teeth to straighten them out. And I'm about 3 months into it, and it's brutal. But you know, it's like any change in life. You just kind of do it a little bit at a time, and it feels like your face is ripping apart. You know,
that is a great slogan for change in life. Just do a little bit of time, and it'll feel like your face is getting ripped apart.
I never thought I could have bruised teeth, but I do. You know, it's a great weight management thing. Well, in theory, it is. If I didn't drink milkshakes, but you know, you can't really chew anything for a few days at a time, and.
Yeah.
So what's the commitment? How long did they give you like a prognosis? Like, hey, it'll look how you need it to look in 2 years or 17 years or.
It's like they told me 4 to 5 months, basically, which means 6 months usually, which sometimes might bleed into 8 or 9, but that's not bad.
Are you only bottom or top and bottom?
Top and bottom.
Oh, you're doing it.
Yeah, top and bottom. So they got that in, and they had to do a little bit of sandpaper work on some of the teeth, in between the teeth, and that's really not comfortable either. But results. It'll get there. It already looks better, I think. So,
So-
I talk like Sid the Sloth. So.
I'm curious. You're going to an orthodontist office and you get these? Is that?
I'm going to a legitimate dentist. I mean, this isn't some back alley.
It's not like you just ordered them off of Amazon, and one
Fit
size
yourself?
fits all.
No.
It's like a football mouth guard. You boil it and stick them in, and you're like, all right, yeah, you're off.
No. I'm going to a legitimate dental facility. And
Okay.
you probably know the dentist, Tyler. So.
Oh, yeah, I think I spent time with him last week. Dr. Paul Felstead, is this our man?
That's the guy. Yeah. He
Is our
does
man.
dentistry better than he surfs, so that's good.
That's very good.
I'm just kidding, Paul.
Well, he is a proud sponsor of this show, unknowingly.
Well, hey, but it probably is, lined up with all of those truths. No pain, no gain, right? You over time, gradual, slow change. It's probably going to be a good thing.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable. I got to say, I've never really honestly sought out opportunities to inflict pain on myself. So this is kind of a first for me, but it's, I'm knocking on wood that it's a good thing in the long run.
Yeah. So I was older when I did the braces thing. And, I remember here's the bottom line. I grew up, my mom couldn't afford both of us to get braces. So I yielded, my brother got braces and I didn't. So I was in college. I'm a married college kid and I'm rocking braces and I'm a Spanish major and I'm trying to speak Spanish and I'm in these linguistic classes with 6 rubber bands on my face and they're snapping off as I'm trying to talk. Right. But I mean, in the end, the inconvenience and the pain and all of that. In the end, I look back and it's like, I'm glad I did it. So maybe in 6, 7, 8, 9 months or whatever, you'll look back and be like, hey, you know what? That wasn't that bad.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, no, I agree with you, but I think when you're in the middle of it, right? I mean, with anything else, anything in life, right? When you're in the middle of it, it's tough to have that perspective that there's going to be growth, but I do.
Well, maybe you're at a point of no return now, right? I mean, you're in it.
Oh yeah. I mean, once you're into it for a few weeks, like, you know what, just suck it up and do it. Just finish it. Just get it done. Just,
I'm curious, Peter, as I've gotten older, right? And I tell my kids all the time, I preach at them, you can do it. You can do anything. You can handle this. I think that's something that I've acquired as I've gotten older, right? The ability to say to myself, all right, suck it up. This sucks, but it's going to be fine. You'll get through it and you'll be okay. But at what point, I'm just trying to think, like, at what point did that become part of who I am and not just, you know what I mean? Like, when I was younger, I don't think I embraced that as much. Like, in fact, if I was uncomfortable when I was younger, I was looking for a way to get out of the discomfort and move on to the next thing. So at what point do we adopt that as part of who we are?
I think that's just a perspective thing. I mean, once you get old, like us, or maybe like you guys, you gain that perspective and you realize, hey, the pain, a few months of pain and discomfort is not the end of the world, and it's not, horrible stuff, and there is a great payout at the end. Whereas when you're young, you don't have that depth of perspective. You're looking at it like a 2-dimensional picture. You don't have that added depth. So, and then if you're just into hurting yourself, I don't know. It's it's just knowing that, there's no growth in the comfort zone, and really to putting that to the test a few times, and
because you've got young kids or younger, right? Kids that are like in high school and junior high. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
And that's like, I've got a junior high school daughter, and I always feel like her philosophy at that age is avoid discomfort at all costs. And I'm curious, with your kids that are in that high school, junior high phase, how do you broach that topic with them? How do you teach them that principle?
I don't, unfortunately. I don't think they've caught on to that. I wish I could. I present ideas to them, but I'm old and decrepit, and my experience is not sufficient for this day and time. So I haven't had that. I don't feel like I've been successful in getting them to get out of that comfort zone or experience that discomfort for the sake of growth and for the sake of getting better. But maybe that's a maturity thing. And if they're like me, then they'll be late bloomers and figure it out much later in life. And hopefully they're still good. We'll see.
Yeah. I feel like, like I said, I feel like I threw that out to my kids all the time, right? I wanted them to understand that, but I don't know. And I guess, it's just a matter of the walk down the road. You walk down the road long enough, and then you realize that you're going to get through some stuff that maybe you didn't think you were capable of getting through. But, I just feel like as a parent, I want to, there's certain things that are like core truths for me that I want my kids to embrace. But I guess I'm learning that no matter how much evidence I present or how many compelling arguments I give, it's not going to happen unless they have their own experiences.
Yeah.
But we do talk, Tyler, about modeling.
Yeah.
And I think that, I'm thinking, so Peter, we haven't hung out for a year and a half. And I'm assuming that if we were to, spend some time together, you would be in a different place than you were a year and a half ago. Hopefully, right? Better place, a higher place, progress over time. And I think, Tyler, I'm thinking of Quinn being out, Quinn's off serving a mission, and he's coming home in a couple months, and you haven't seen him in a couple years. And the thinking is that when you see him and he sees you, we're going to be in different places, And so I think that they're watching, they're always watching. We know that. And as they see us grow, even better, intentionally seek chances to grow and not just let things come at us and we're coming at it from a reactionary mode. I think that those lessons are going to stick.
Yeah.
They're going to see that and be like, well, dad chose to torture himself with some Invisalign, make some changes, or, whatever those changes might be, whether they're physical changes, whether they're spiritual changes, but it's like they're watching us choose the hard, right? Choose the hard thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, the modeling aspect of it is probably the best tool that we have. I sure would like a good lecture to sink in. You know what I mean? Like just a good old-fashioned lecture.
Yeah, just like all those ones did for you.
Yeah, I remember all of them.
Yeah.
I remember sitting there in my parents' mouths moving, and I remember that much of them. So Peter, what's new with you? What's the latest and greatest? I know that you're writing a book. Talk to me about that, man.
So yeah, I've been working on a book. It's a fiction type of book, and honestly, I've been working on it an embarrassingly long period of time. So I'm not going to say it's been going on for like 20 years because that would be a lie, but it's been probably close to about 19. But just kind of creative writing projects. I've always enjoyed writing as an outlet, as just kind of it's fun to create using words. And it's one of those things that I would never have expected to enjoy this much, as a kid or as a teenager, although I wrote a little bit as a teenager, but not a ton. And so, kind of just side note, I kind of use that as when I talk to my kids, and I'll go out, try new things, try, everything you can think of, get out of your comfort zone. And you never know what you're going to end up liking. You may not like it now, but you might like it later, or you might develop a skill, or I don't know. So, so I've been writing this fiction book, and it's kind of sci-fi, kind of if you had to mix a few books, a few topics together, it would be, kind of like a Star Wars, Harry Potter, Back to the Future type of thing with, some good, I'd like to think there's some scriptural parallels in it. Some truth there, but I'm on a platform called Kindle Vella where it publishes by chapter. So
Okay.
instead of doing a whole book, which is not realistic at this point, but being able to, throw a chapter or two out there at a time. And so I've got, I think, 23 or 26 chapters out there. I should know that, but
so it's kind of episodic almost.
it is. Yeah, it's episodic. If that's even a word, I don't know. I won't
I don't know.
on that, but
Let's just play it off like it is. Ready? Cut. And now we'll just play it off. Okay, go.
yeah. So, it is by episode, not by chapter.
Okay.
That would be the
Okay.
appropriate way. So it's called the Redemption Prophecy, and it's on the Kindle Vella platform. Once I finish a book, I can publish it then to Kindle. The Kindle Vella platform is kind of a beta testing thing. It's really cumbersome to use, which is frustrating. It's hard to really get people excited. They can't just like pull it up on their phone. It's for the most part, it's cumbersome at best.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll get that worked out. They just opened it like a year and a half ago. So hopefully or maybe a year ago, hopefully they'll kind of get their ducks in a row there. But yeah.
So is that available then when you say, published by chapters? So we can jump on it right now. We can listen, or we can
Read.
You can jump on it. Yeah, you can access it right now. The first 3 chapters, the way the platform works, the first 3 chapters are free. And then after that, you have to buy credits, and you use that to buy the additional episodes.
And
So we'll
how
drop-
long is this? Go ahead, Mike.
We'll drop that in the show notes. What was the title again?
The Redemption Prophecy. I've gone through a few different titles on it, so I'll shoot over a link to you so you can throw that in.
Yeah,
That'd be awesome. And how long has this idea been in the works for you, this particular story?
So I remember writing on pen and paper in the OBGYN office when I was with Lisa at her appointments when this is going back, when Sam was still in utero. So
Wow.
then
Wow.
19. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
He's almost
that's
20.
Awesome.
So maybe it has been 20 years.
Yeah.
So do you know where it's going, or are you uncovering it as you're writing it?
I don't, I hit a bunch of walls, and then, because in your mind, when you're writing, you're like, okay, this is how it's got to be. And then you write it out, and then, I'll hit a wall and I won't touch it for a year or 2 or 3. And then I'll come back and just like slam through a bunch, or I'll say, hey, what would happen if this happened? And I'll write, I'll explore that storyline or that option. And you kind of put your feelers out there. And sometimes you hit the delete button for a long period of time afterwards. And sometimes it sticks. And sometimes it just presents things differently. I always wanted the book to be from a first person perspective, which is pretty difficult to write and have an intricate plot from a first person perspective, because you're very limited as to what you can write about, because it's limited to one person. So I've explored some options with adding in some side notes in the third person about other characters, but the main line of the story is all told first person. And one of the unique things I'm trying to keep in line with the book is never giving the main character a name. So the main character is referred to by all of the different characters by different names or pseudonyms or whatever, but never by an actual name. So
Interesting.
it was just kind of an idea that I floated around, like, that could be fun.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge though, but
So Tyler, I'm thinking of listening to Peter exploring this writing. I'm thinking of Nate Ward's question to us a long, long time ago in the episode. What do you do to the booze in your head, right? What do you do to that critic? And I can imagine writing and reading the things that you wrote. Maybe you're caught up in a moment, you write it down, and then you come back after it's cooled off and you read it. And it's like, how do you shut that critic off and just publish it? right? Because is it ever perfect? Is it ever
It's
where
never.
you want it to be?
That's such a problem. I mean, they say that books aren't written; they're rewritten. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've read through it. Well, I can't think of something to write, so I'm just going to start reading through it again. Tweak a few things here and there. Oh man, it's never perfect. And that's kind of one thing I've always wondered is, you get all these songs that get remakes done, 5, 10, 20 years later. Books never get remakes. Once it's published, it's done. It's don't touch it again. Whereas
you got to walk away.
Yeah, you walk away, and if you don't like it, you go write a different book. So, it's kind of static in that sense where, once it's out there, once it's published, it's out there. Luckily, this platform, I can go back and I can change things and update episodes and all of that. And, as soon as I publish it as an actual book, though, that's, that option is kind of out the window. But.
Yeah. So what would you say to somebody, Peter, who's got something bouncing around in their head, just hasn't taken out the pen or the paper or jumped on a platform to start writing? How would you encourage them?
I would just say, just put the pen to paper. Whatever the medium is, it could be, some people love to type. Some people, I really like doing the pen and paper. Put it out there. I mean, just get started. The problem is a lot of times we think, gosh, this could be really, really good. And then, the fear is either, well, if I put it out on paper, it's actually going to be a bad idea. It's going to suck. And then I won't have this idea in my head that I had a really good idea. It was actually just a crappy idea that, that never came to fruition. But, you throw enough stuff out there and not everything's going to be great. Not everything's going to be perfect. And I'm fully convinced that everything, the first time you try anything, it's going to suck. And you embrace the suck and you get better at it.
You suck less.
You just suck less later. I mean, it's okay. I mean, I think as humans, our nature is to be able to go out and explore and develop and learn and kind of feast after that. Otherwise we'd just be sitting home staring at the wall. I can't do that for more than a few minutes at a time. So
a lot of writers read. What are you reading these days that's lighting you up?
Not enough. Sadly, I'll admit it. Most of my reading is finding my news through Facebook. That's really most of what I'm absorbing are memes and of that. But I really enjoyed the book series, The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. It was finished later by Brandon Sanderson after Robert Jordan passed away. And they put it into a series on Amazon Prime. They started making it finally, but
I did see that. Yeah,
I
haven't seen it, but I saw the advertisement for that.
Yeah, it's each book's about 1,000 pages, and there's 14 or 15 books.
Oh,
it's
wow.
pretty brutal.
Oh,
it's
wow.
His writing, I think, is just different styles of writing, just very different. So I enjoy that. Patrick Rothfuss has a couple of good ones. Name of the Wind book series, but I honestly I don't read a ton. Most of my reading is, like I said, it's either Facebook or I'm reading the Sunday school lessons or conference talks or things like that. I don't.
So what's moving in you as you read the Old Testament?
Reading the Old Testament, you look at it, you go, man, these people were dense. And then you look around and you're like, well, no, I guess we are too. I guess that's
Yeah. It's been an interesting. It's been good though, right? It's been interesting to read it with all of the additional insightful commentary and works with it. I've never read the Old Testament that way before, and so it's been a lot more insightful than it had in my previous attempts.
Yeah, context is a lot, and understanding the politics behind it, and understanding what's going on in other parts of the world at the same time. And I think we get into this trap, this myopic trap that it's like it's all about us. It's our culture is the only culture out there, and man, we're a speck on a planet that's a speck in the universe, and I mean, there's understanding how all of those things play together with the politics, with the, you know, with all of that in the world is, to me, it's fascinating because it brings context into why people are doing the things that they're doing, and all of a sudden then it becomes relatable to what's going on now, and it relates to our life. We can say, oh well, you know, they had all of these outside influences, or they had these internal struggles and strife.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's back to human nature. It's just,
Yeah, it's like why did they do the things that they did relates scary close to why we're doing the things we're doing.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then maybe you can kind of short circuit that, you know, the problems and skip straight to the solution. But, you know, it at least gives us context on what to expect. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, hey, we often ask the question to our guests, what are you learning from your kids as they're growing up? From where you sit now, what are your kids teaching you right now? Watching them growing up.
You know, I would say 2 years ago, I'd give the basic answers. The last, I would say, year and a half has been very eye-opening and very much causing me to refocus on my perspectives in life. So about a year and a half ago, my oldest son came out as gay. And in a Mormon household, that was not really a huge grand, I mean, it caused a lot of reason to reflect. I won't say trouble, I won't say trial, because that's not correct, but it caused us to look at things a lot differently, outside of our, you know, the normal culture that we're used to. And it's caused us to really focus on what are we doing to make sure that our kids know that they are, number one, our priority, and number two, that they are 100% loved unconditionally. And it's really, it's caused a lot of reflection in myself, and it's shined a mirror on me, and that's not a very flattering thing sometimes, but helping me to really kind of, I would say, to grow personally, to be more introspective, to be more intentional, really intentional about what I say, about how I say it, about the things that I talk about, and not in a, you know, tiptoeing around type of thing. But we've had some very, you know, my kids and I and my wife, our family, we've had some very good discussions. Some gospel related, some not gospel related, some, you know, just life. But it's really, you know, he struggled for many years before this, and knowing that his family, his parents, his siblings are 100% supportive of him regardless of anything, I think brings a very strong foundation that people need. You know, I saw as soon as he came out, he was, and you know, we said, hey, we're okay. You know, this isn't a bad thing. You know, this is good that you're understanding you. I can see his stress and anxiety levels come down tremendously. He was much more at peace because, you know, like I said, there was a number of years where he's trying to reconcile a lot of what his predetermined thoughts were about the subject, and what did he do wrong, and, you know, all of this stuff, and really, until you really deep, you know, dive into it, the whole thing has brought me a much better, a much clearer perspective than I think I would ever have otherwise. And it requires a lot of intentional, you know, thinking on it. It requires a lot of intentional action. But yeah, the last year and a half, it's helped us. Instead of that being a reason for us to grow apart, it's helped us to come closer together as a family, because we can have now some very interesting moments, whether that's, you know, and some of it's very humorous. But being able to really focus on the needs of our kids, you know, all four of them, making sure that they are good, and really, you know, it's easy as a parent to kind of, whether you're religious or not, or whether it's easy to just kind of try to coast through and try to take that path of least resistance and think, okay, hey, they're going, we're hitting church each Sunday. We're doing our Sunday school lessons, our meetings. We're getting all of that. So, we can kind of cruise through this, and pretty soon they're gonna be adults and they'll have it all figured out. And all of a sudden it's like Tommy Boy, where David Spade's character takes a 2x4 to Chris Farley across the face, and
yeah,
you know what I'm talking about. It's just a complete wake up call, and very uncomfortable at first. I can't speak to how my wife handled things, or my kids, but for me there was a lot of that, that 5 stages of grief, just because it's a complete change in overnight. Of what you're expecting, of what you're projecting, your kid's life is going to be like, they're going down this path and this is how it's going to be, and they're going to learn these things and they're going to do these things, and all of a sudden you hit the brakes on it, and you're like, you have to learn everything all over again. And I remember thinking at some point, it's like, shoot, I don't even know who he is anymore. He's not who I thought he was. And then you get the thought, well, dude, you're the parent, go figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's why I say it's not that when that happened, it's not that was a problem or anything like that. I don't want to put any negative light on it. It's been a reason for us to really be intentional about how we parent, about delving into how can we show and live the principles that Christ taught intentionally. Because I think a lot of times, we have these predetermined thoughts based on whatever culture we grow up in, of how truth is or how things are. And sometimes it gets really uncomfortable trying to break through a lot of that. That's not 100% accurate, and really break it down to what are the basic gospel principles about love and unconditional love. I mean, you think you love your kids unconditionally, and then something like that comes up and you're like, well, do I love my kids unconditionally? Because all of a sudden I'm experiencing all of this discomfort, and then you realize that, hey, this isn't a them problem. This is a me problem, and leveraging that as a way to grow closer as a family. It's been very interesting, but it's been very good. And I can say that there are things that I would never have understood or even thought to try to understand if he had not come out. And I would feel horrific if, at 30 years old or 40 years old, he might be 10 or 20 years into a marriage and he's, hey, I'm not happy. I've never been happy. Thank goodness he's figuring himself out. And thank goodness he's helping other people along the way as well. It's been a complete change. He came out just before I came on episode 47. And
well, so you were dealing with that.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Peter, because you made the comment that, you're a Mormon family, and this, and then your son comes out. How does religion fit in to all of this? Or does it? Or is it on the periphery? I mean, how does that work?
That's a great question. I think that I think a lot of people, and this is not exclusive to our religion. There's multiple, there's a lot of other religions that will have a tendency, I think, to paint it in a bad light. I was talking to him and one of his friends who's of another religion. His parents kicked him out of the house. I mean, I think the mistake is that people associate religion with it. And I think that's a dangerous ground, because the gospel is unconditional love. 100%. I mean, and we hold true to the teaching that we are children of a loving God. And there's religion is only involved, I think, to the extent that religion is a way that we manifest or express or grow our spirituality. It's a vessel that allows us to increase that. And some may agree with it, some may not. That's the gospel according to me, or truth according to me. That may be 100% false, but
But I agree with you that if we, I feel like in religious culture, let's, our faith, we share the same faith, the three of us. I think that sometimes we have a tendency to want to have these conversations that are absolutes, right? We say that this is an absolute and there's no variance, right? But then at the same time, we have these conversations that we talk about that talk about compassion and mercy. And I feel like that sometimes the tendency is to want to have conversations that focus on the punitive nature of religion, and we completely miss the mark or undersell the idea of compassion, and one, and for two, the embracing that idea that Christ is love, and regardless of where we're at or who we are or wherever we find ourselves, that's due all people.
Yeah.
But I think that I could see where that at a glance there's some incongruency, right? And we just say, well, this doesn't fit into this mold, and so therefore these two things can't coexist. And I guess the short question to that long rant is, can they coexist?
I would expect them to coexist. I would expect that. There's so much that we don't know. There's so much that we think that we know, but there's more that we don't know. Understanding that things do reconcile in the end somehow. I don't know how that all works.
Yeah.
But knowing that everything does reconcile at the end is a good comfort. But sometimes it's really frustrating not knowing how that reconciles. Why are people born the way they're born, or subject to certain things as kids or adult? I mean,
it's like puzzle piece, right? It's that puzzle piece concept, Tyler. It's like, I got this jigsaw puzzle piece and I'm looking at it. Your son walks up to you that day and presents you with a puzzle piece, and you look at it and you don't cast it aside. You don't take out a scissor and try to manipulate it and cut it to fit your puzzle. I'm going to hang on to this, and I'm going to gain experience, and I'm going to gain context, and I'm going to gain some understanding, and this will reconcile, right? This will fit. This will fit in this big picture, right? Zoom out. And I commend you for your courage in sharing what you're going through, and I commend your son, all right, because the courage to be in a place where, heaven forbid, I got this hard thing I need to tell my parents, and man, I hope faith isn't an obstacle that makes that even harder, right? Because faith should help us in all things, and I think that if I were to put myself in your son's shoes, faith probably was part of the mountain to climb, right? Like I've got to share this. I've got to share this reality.
Mm-hmm.
And the faith that has buoyed me up and raised me is this perceived obstacle right now. And in the end, it isn't, right? Because in the end, God is love. And I think, Tyler, I shared with you the thought. I grabbed it on my phone. I was in a church meeting, and we were saying the hymn, God is love. And I don't know what number it is. I lost it, but I took a picture of the closing line. All the voices from above sweetly whisper, God is love. And somehow we get into the branches, or we get into the weeds of our faith. And like, even I'll be honest, sometimes, like, where's Jesus in my faith? Right? Where's Jesus in my church? Sometimes I'm in meetings for half an hour, 45 minutes, and the Savior, Redeemer of the world, his name hasn't even been mentioned from the pulpit, right? And I think that 2x4 example, that 2x4 upside the head, is every once in a while, it's a healthy thing to say, what are you going to do to get back to me, right? Yeah. Christ is saying, what are you going to do to get back to this unconditional love, right? Commandment number 1, commandment number 2, everything hangs on those two things. And every once in a while, that 2x4, wakes us up brings us back to Christ.
I think it's interesting though. It's like, Peter, you talk about sort of this journey of, of having this experience with your son and coming to this kind of understanding. At the beginning of this, we were talking about the idea of, man, you got to go through hard things and you suck it up and you get through them. And it's funny because my mom used to say to me all the time, she still says it, and I'm 47 years old. She still says it to me. Everything's going to work out exactly as it's supposed to work out. And when I was young, I was like, that is the most irritating thing to hear, because you're in the middle of this thing that in my mind was almost insurmountable, that was, something that I thought I could never get over. And yet we go down the road a little ways and I look back at that thing and I say, you know what? Everything worked out exactly as it was supposed to. And I kind of feel like it's interesting because I think that, you're going through this journey, and I love how you said it's been good for your family.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's been good for, and at the beginning, episode 47 was right around that time is when you were having these initial conversations. What's that year and a half looked like as far as growth for your family?
I think it's taught us a lot more. It's taught me a lot more about me, but I think as a family, it's taught us, we don't have, I don't want to say we don't have the boundaries that we used to, but, we can talk about anything. It's,
it's real.
It's real. Yeah. Good, bad, whatever. I mean, I feel like we're much more of an open book, whereas, I think sometimes the struggle is we want to be, this not necessarily a stereotypical quote unquote perfect situation where, mom and dad and kids all love each other and everything's hunky dory 24/7. And so, sometimes things get swept under the rug or things don't get talked about. I feel that we're much more open, from Isaac, our youngest, Dana, Emma, Sam, myself, Lisa, and I think it's really allowed our children to bond a lot better too. Like I said, I don't know that there's anything negative about it. I think it's been overall a very strong blessing. And
it's interesting. I almost feel like, like Sam kicked in the doors for communication, right? It's like we have these things. It's almost like the gutters on your house, when they're mucked up with leaves and the water's kind of moving. You clear it out and stuff just goes, And what a relief to be able to have those kind of conversations freely. Like I feel like that's a huge blessing, right? If I can have conversations with my kids and we're open about stuff and I can tell them honestly how I feel about things and they can tell me honestly how they feel about things. And that's a beautiful feeling. Now, it doesn't happen all the time.
But see, like that's when you show up.
Yeah.
When you show up in your life, and I'm not saying I'm an expert here, right? Because I'm learning from Peter's experience and I'm taking notes here. But when we do show up authentically, the natural result is you give green light to everyone around you to do the same. When you show up in its dog and pony show, everyone's like, oh, I can't be real in this space and I'm not feeling psychologically safe to let people in on what's happening. It's like all the time, right? You run into me, like you say this, you run into me in the hall and it's like, hey, how's it going? I'm going to tell you fine. You show up in my front door and we sit on the couch, I'm going to tell you what's really happening.
Yeah.
And like, I think that authenticity is probably refreshing. And I don't think that would be a word, Peter, that you would use when this thing hit.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I'm hoping that everything is, that our kids are as open to talk to us as I think they are right now. I mean, only time will tell, but
I think that the challenge with this whole podcast premise, Tyler, is how can we learn this not necessarily having had Peter's experience, right? So like, how can I, in the time that we've spent with Peter, walk away and be a better dad and open up those lines of communication and be real and give permission to those around me to do the same without without like, hey, somebody come hit me with a 2x4, right?
Right.
How
But
can I live it
Yeah.
without living it? I think that's the challenge.
I think too that there's this a rich life looks different for every single person, right? And if out of 115 or however many episodes we've done, one thing that I've learned is that there's no cookie cutter to how a good life looks and how you get to that good life. And
but there are principles.
But I think that we can, I think there's some underpinnings that are key. And I think knowing that God is compassionate and that God is love are a huge part of that, right? Because I think there's when we can get to a place where we can forgive others and we can forgive ourselves, then relationships can kind of take root and really kind of take off. But I think that, I hope that people, when they listen to, you, Peter, and all of our other guests, they understand that one, life is tough. It is full of 2x4s coming at you, right? But two, it's all going to work out exactly as it's supposed to, and that there's richness to be found in the middle of these hard conversations, because I'm sure, Peter, when this conversation is first had, you alluded to the fact that I don't even think I knew my son. And now you're in a place where you're like, man, we're closer than we're more open than we've ever been. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting how in that very difficult moment comes this freedom for the rest of the family. And I love that. I love that principle, and I think it's an eternal principle that we have to embrace.
100%. And I will give all the credit in the world to my wife. She, he came out to her first, and her first instinct was, it's always family first, 100%, always, regardless. And I would hope that I would have that same reaction if he had come to me first. But I know that her example really solidified how we were moving forward after that as a family.
For the record, I was going to give your wife all the credit anyway.
That's so richest men in town anyways.
Right.
That's one of the foundational principles of every person we've spoken to, is that person that you're yoked to, right? That makes all the difference. The older that I get, the more as I learn as a father, my understanding of the nature of my Heavenly Father increases. So as you've learned these things from your son and from all of your children, what is that teaching you about who God is?
He is way more patient than I think I would ever imagine. I mean, seeing the level of just the way the world is, and just not having consumed the whole thing with a fireball already is a testament to his patience and dedication. The fact that yes, we do have a great potential within each of us that eventually we're going to realize, but it's going to be it takes time. And knowing that if he can put up with this, then I can probably be a little bit more patient. And I feel that this has brought me a much more compassion to other people going through struggles and challenges, and recognizing that. And my kids would argue that doesn't happen when I'm driving, but in general in life that's true. We just had that conversation earlier this evening. I tried to defend myself, but they're probably right.
Well, I'm curious, when you talked, when you're sharing earlier, you said that your son is intentionally helping other people. What is? Can you share? Is that shareable? What does that look like?
So just in general, without going into too many specifics, his experience has been an example to help other people kind of come to terms with who they are. People that are experiencing similar, I don't want to say struggles or trials, because that's not what it is, but people in a similar boat that don't know how to reconcile what they think they should be with who they are. And like I said, a lot of it is just helping people to understand that in essence that we are that we're children of God. I don't know exactly how he would state it, but that we're all good. I mean, we're all good regardless of how regardless of how we're made, and it's and my kid's been a very good example of that. In all different aspects of not being judgy to people based on how they look or how they drive, or all of that kind of stuff. That it's just overall been a very good example. And I don't know who all he has helped, but I know that he's talked about friends at school that that he's kind of helped to be a support for, that have also been a support for him. But sometimes it's just it's about building those relationships with other people. I mean, can you imagine how lonely the world would be if we didn't have relationships?
Yeah,
it certainly wouldn't last very long. But there is a great strength in building relationships, and I think he's been a great testament to that.
Well, Tyler, I think of all the times you've said, it is our responsibility, if we have tread a path and we see somebody on that path, we don't just walk by and say, yeah, I've been through that. That part sucks. Good luck with that. Right. But we get down in it with them and we say, hey, I know this is difficult. I've learned a thing or two. Let me be a part of this. Let me be a part of your story. And to folks listening, I just want people to understand that the principle of courage, the principle of compassion, that translates to any game we're playing, right? So Peter's letting us in on what his family journey has been through. But when we hear that call to be courageous, right, that applies to all aspects of our life. And when we hear in the story of Peter's son, that call to be courageous, if we've got things in us that's prompting us to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Live it. You got one go.
Yeah.
You know
what I love is that episode 47, we talked about identity in that episode.
Well, he's letting us in, right? It was going on the back of his head.
But I love that, one of the things you said that, Sam is helping other people with is just understanding who they are, and I think that's an important thing. I'm grateful for him for doing that. That's a big deal. Life's tough and people are lonely, and it's hard to get through things. But if you've got someone there that, like you said, Mike, that can walk the trail with you for a little ways, even, it's
just keeping front and center that relationship that you are a child of God.
Yeah.
That you are loved with a perfect love. And the cool thing is too, we have these blessings called families. And there's sometimes a hot mess, and sometimes it's not perfect love. But I can tell you, Tyler's mom's right. It does have a way of working out, right? If you put the needs of other people in front of you, if you exercise patience, if you're compassionate, I think that the crazy thing is the kids that come to us have the lessons that we need, right? In them, as we let them live out. Oh my goodness, I needed that thing that you came and brought to our family. Right.
It's interesting.
That's kind of cool.
Shakes out. I'm curious, Peter, obviously, there's all kinds of families that have experienced the same thing, or maybe are listening to this podcast and in the middle of this, right? And trying to find their way. What would you share with them if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, this is where I'm at"? What would you share with them?
I would say, first of all, I think it comes down to what's your identity as a family. And this goes back to, business school. It's, if you're a company and you're having you're struggling or you're having issues on something, what is your identity? What's like the basic premise of who you are? And so I asked my kids, it was probably about 6 or 8 months ago. We were just having a family discussion. And I said, if you could describe our family with one word or a phrase.
I'm totally curious.
And humor was one of them. And I honestly, I don't remember all of it. But, knowing kind of what your mission statement as a family is. Because the rest of it falls away. There's so much stuff out there. There could be hard feelings. There could be people taking offense. There's distrust. There could be, all kinds of negative things going on. But when you boil down to who are we as a family and start with that as a foundation, then you can get rid of the other stuff. They say in engineering, something's not perfect, or something's perfect not when you have nothing left to add, but when you have nothing left to take away. And when you get rid of all that other garbage, it allows us to focus on what's really important. And so, it's maybe it's something as simple as humor, or it's something, we're a spiritual family, or we are, number one, we love each other. We may hate each other at times, but we always love each other.
Thin line between that love and hate.
Yeah. And then
I repoed a cell phone last night. I'm in the hate category just in my house, just so you know.
We won't ask whose that was.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I actually could geek out about that whole mission statement thing, right? And you're not the first person to.
Yeah, because ours is don't rub your Cheeto fingers on the couch, and we need to change it, man.
Because it really does. When you think about, like, I think even from the business perspective, right? When it comes down to the core, like the question is, why does this organization exist? And to think for me to assemble the Freeman family together and to look eyeball to eyeball and say, why does this thing exist? I think that would be an incredible experience, right? I'm getting emotional just thinking about what that would do, that exercise, and what that would do as we get up and leave from that conversation, right? Because you can't, I'll tell you right now, episode 300, when Peter comes back, our worlds are going to be different.
Yeah.
But that core, everything that life threw at it, we threw up against that core, right? We threw up against that statement, right? And I think that will stand the test of time.
And you know what, Mike, I love that. And I'm curious if, like, I feel like these things that we go through, that we experience, they have the ability, even in the hardest of moments, to solidify those core values, right? And it's funny because I think sometimes we think, well, shoot, this thing is chipping away at the foundation, but I think that if we look at it right, that it can solidify.
Well, like Peter was saying, it's removing all the
clutter,
all the crap, hubris, right? All just the unnecessary, and stripping it down to, like, this is at its core. We're not any of those other things.
Yeah,
life is chipped away to reveal, like, there's nothing left to take away. This is us at our core.
Well, and I think too, because I have done this like multiple times, where I say to myself, forget what you know, and let's look at this with a new set of eyes, right? And a lot of that's for my own personal study, or my own personal, especially when it comes to spiritual matters. Forget what you know. Let me relearn this with a different set of eyes. And I think that, I feel like that's like a key, like that's a life. Who gave us the life keys, or who talked about that?
Wisdom keys.
The wisdom keys. It was Gary Miller. But I feel like I don't want to get to a place where I feel like these are the things that I know, and that's it. You know, because
because
it's eternal, it's moving constantly, and if I don't break those walls down myself and say, now what? How can I relearn this idea of God's love? Or
Peter's
what does
son comes up
compassion
and
mean?
says, "Try these glasses on, Dad."
Yeah, absolutely. And
a lot of people freak out about that. A lot of people like, no, you take your stuff. I like how I see my world. I'm not interested in another way to see this world. You take this, and sadly enough, it divides families, breaks people up, and kids get kicked out of the house, or
right.
that unconditional love gets exposed as, wow, that's really conditional, real quick. And I love Peter's question, that self-reflection, like, do I love my kids unconditionally? Can they always come home? Maybe with a lease agreement, right? But is the door open? Is there a bridge always, no matter what? You have a place in my heart, in my life, in my home. Period.com.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Well, period.com, call your mom. Yeah. Shout out to Anna Lee. Anna Lee, wherever you are. I owe you a nickel. She taught me that phrase.
Oh man, I love it.
That's powerful. That's powerful stuff, Peter. I appreciate it. Hey, but since we've upped our game, Peter, I don't know if you're aware of this, but we have a new question.
I'm totally unaware of your upped game.
No,
it's not apparent.
Since episode 47, we have added a question that is quickly becoming one of my favorites. So, looking back on life, could you paint us a picture of a moment, of a time when you looked around and said to yourself, this is rich?
I think every time we're sitting together in a family environment, where it's the six of us, and maybe there's other family members there as well, but I don't know if I could tell you an exact specific time, but I can tell you that when we're sitting there together as a family and there are smiles on faces and we're genuinely, enjoying each other, being around each other, and not because, mom and dad are making me sit here on the couch, or, just having a good time.
Where they're choosing to be with you.
Where they're choosing. More or less choosing.
With an asterisk.
Right. Yeah, there might be an asterisk there in some cases, but for the most part, sometimes persuasions are needed, but just being able to sit there together and be there together, knowing that not only are we there with each other, but we're there for each other. It really has helped us to redefine, at least me, I can't speak for all of them, but it's helped me to be able to redefine the concept of unconditional love as far as my mortal imperfect brain can comprehend it. But I'll tell you, it's a lot different than I thought it was 2 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago.
And isn't that life, right? Isn't that the whole purpose?
Yeah, I hope we're growing and progressing. I mean, if we're not, we're doing something wrong.
Yeah, so here we are, a year and a half, give or take, right, since we spoke last time, and I feel like I'm going to ask you the same question we asked you the last time we left, but I feel like whether the answer is the same or not, water's passed over us, and we've journeyed. And so I'm curious, Peter, sitting where you are today, what does it mean to you to be considered the richest man in town?
I think knowing that there's always going to be more to learn and experience, that I think my answer a year and a half ago is something along the lines of a legacy of doing good. I don't even remember how he had said it before, but just I'd say knowing that I don't know everything, and that's okay. I find a lot of comfort now in the fact that I don't know everything, and having that, every once in a while, the light of experience, shine on my brain and show me parts where I'm very ignorant or I don't know how things reconcile, helps to, I think, prove to me that, that I am a child of God that is here on the journey, just like all of us, trying to make sense out of what's sometimes looks like chaos, but knowing that there is somebody up there in charge, that there are truths out there that allow us to have an eternal happiness. It would sure be great to know everything right now, though. If I could just be a teenager again, life would be so much easier.
Well, you got a whole house full of them that I'm sure will happy to share with you what they know.
That knowledge doesn't transfer, though. I tried it. It doesn't transfer. I think it's because they don't talk about anything. So.
Well, I got to
hey,
tell
Peter,
you,
I'm
go
better.
ahead, Mike.
I'm better. I'm better after spending some time with you tonight. I appreciate you giving us those glasses a little bit, right? Just to take a walk with you, and I'm gonna try to be a better dad and better husband, right? After listening to you, and I think that's in the end that's what this thing is about.
For sure.
And I appreciate, and hug your son for me, right? I don't know if I've ever met him, but I really appreciate the way that he's living and leading. Sounds like he's a light to other people, and in the end that's what it's about too. So really appreciate you letting us in on that.
My pleasure. Well,
Yeah.
I'll take my glasses back, but if you want to have my old Invisaligns, I'll give those to you too. I don't know how well they'll fit.
Well, I got to tell you, Peter, I'm grateful for you, man. I appreciate you so much, and I love your family. Your kids are great, and they make me laugh, and they're just, they're fun to be around. So I appreciate you're doing things the right way, and I appreciate you guys a ton, and I'm grateful for you being here with us tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me again.
Well, Peter,
All
you're
right,
doing
man.
something right, because every time I see you, I either think gospel doctrine or turkey bowl.
Yeah.
So like word association with Peter Carlseen, that's pretty freaking remarkable. So
Well, thanks. I'll take that as a compliment. So does that mean you're going to be down here in a few months for Turkey?
Come on. Hey, Quinn's home. Quinn
Come
is
on.
like, let's do it. Quinn is
Let's
so
go.
fired up for it, man.
Nice.
It's gonna be fun.
book my room at the Hotel Gould.
Hotel Gould's open for business, man. So, well, hey, man, we appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your night, and tell your family we said hi.
I sure will. I appreciate it.
All right.
Good idea, Ernie. A toast to my big brother George, the richest man in town.